Hi, I'm Elise. Today we're going to look at the different systems that make our bodies work. The human body has to do many important things in order for us to survive. Food has to be eaten and then broken down into nutrients that the cells of the body can use. Oxygen has to be carried to each cell so that respiration can occur. Waste have to be eliminated, and body temperature and blood pressure have to be regulated. We have to be able to control the body's movements, and our bodies have to be protected from bacteria and viruses. The body must do all these things in order for us to live and be healthy. 10 major body systems work together to do all these things. They are the skin, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the digestive system, the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the urinary system, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system, and the nervous system. That's a lot of systems, isn't it? First, let's look at the skin. The skin is the largest organ in the body. It's made up of a thin outer layer of cells, called the epidermis, and a thicker inner layer, called the dermis. The dermis contains blood vessels, nerve cells, sweat and sebaceous glands, and hair follicles. The skin is probably the least thought about major body system. It is very important for a number of reasons. The skin stops microorganisms from entering the body. It prevents ultraviolet rays from harming the body, and it helps regulate body temperature. In cold weather, blood-carrying capillaries in the skin contract to reduce the amount of heat lost by the body. In warm weather, or during exercise, the capillaries expand to allow heat to be released. In addition, perspiration from sweat glands cools the body even more. When the skin is exposed to sunlight, it helps form vitamin D. Vitamin D is used by the body to absorb nutrients from food. The color of a person's skin is determined by a dark pigment called melanin. Melanin is produced by cells called melanocytes. There is very little difference in the number of melanocytes we all have, just in the amount of melanin produced by those cells. The more we are in the sun, the more melanin is produced. This is what makes us tan. Remember, you should always wear a sunblock when you're in the sun. Overexposure to the sun can cause damage to the skin and eventually lead to skin cancer. Next, let's look at the muscular system. There are 3 types of muscle in the body: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. When we think of muscles, we're usually thinking about skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are just below the skin and loosely attached to it. Loosely because the muscles need to be able to expand and contract easily. They are called voluntary muscles. Voluntary means we have control of them. For example, if you want to lift your leg, you consciously think about doing it and then do it. Skeletal muscles are connected to our bones by tendons. When we want to move a bone, we contract a muscle and at the same time relax its opposite muscle. In order to make a voluntary muscle move, the brain must send a signal through a system of nerves to the muscle. When the muscle is stimulated by the nerve, it contracts. The mind has to go through a learning process in order to be able to do complicated motions, such as walking or running. That's why it takes a baby a while to learn to walk. Skeletal muscles can be exercised and developed in 2 different ways. Some exercises, like running, increase the ability of a muscle to work for a long period of time. Other exercises, like weightlifting, make the muscle grow larger and stronger, but don't increase its endurance very much. Now let's look at the second type of muscle, the smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are involuntary muscles. That means we have little or no conscious control over them. They're found in the walls of the stomach, intestines, and blood vessels. When a smooth muscle contracts, it moves whatever material is in the organ on through it. These contractions are controlled by various signals sent from the central nervous system, the muscle itself, and hormones. The third type of muscle is cardiac muscle. It is a special type of muscle that forms the walls of the heart. Cardiac muscles are involuntary muscles, like the smooth muscles, but it looks more like skeletal muscle than smooth muscle. Like skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle needs to be exercised in order to grow and become strong. Doctors usually recommend at least 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, 3 or 4 times a week, to keep the heart in good shape. In addition to strengthening the heart, exercise also helps maintain the strength and density of our bones. The skeletal system plays a number of important roles in our bodies. The most obvious are supporting the body, protecting the brain, and protecting other organs, such as the heart, liver, and lungs. As I said earlier, the skeletal system, along with the muscular system, are used together to move the body. Tough bands of tissues, called ligaments, and other connective tissues hold the bones together at the joints. At the end of each bone, there is a tough, smooth surface called cartilage. This cartilage is lubricated by a special body fluid. When everything is working properly, moving 2 bones connected at a joint is effortless and painless. But abuse, such as caused by playing football, can cause joint surfaces to become rough and make movement painful. Bones perform 2 other important functions. They act as a storage place for minerals, such as calcium, phosphorus, sodium, and potassium. The body uses these reserves whenever our daily intake is not enough. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, red blood cells are produced in the bone marrow that is found in the center of many of the larger bones. That leads us to our next major body system, the blood system. Bone marrow makes red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Blood is made up of these 3 things suspended in a fluid called plasma. Red blood cells contain hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carries oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body, where it delivers the oxygen to all the many different types of cells. Hemoglobin is what gives blood its reddish color. There are a number of different types of white blood cells. Almost all of them are used by the body to fight infections. These white cells can destroy bacteria and other intruders, and will collect rapidly in any area invaded by foreign microorganisms. Approximately 45% of our blood is made up of blood cells. The remaining 55% is made up of plasma. Plasma is mostly water, but also contains some proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and amino acids that are carried to and from the body's cells. Plasma is also found in lymph, which is in the next system we're going to look at, the lymphatic system. Lymph is formed from plasma and contains a large number of specialized white blood cells called lymphocytes. Lymph and lymphocytes flow in lymphatic vessels. Along the course of lymphatic vessels are lymph nodes. Lymph nodes act as a kind of filter that removes invading organisms or abnormal cells from the lymph fluid and processes them in a way that allows the body to fight them. The lymphatic system is an important part of the immune system. When a doctor feels your neck, he is checking to see if your lymph nodes are swollen. If they are, it may indicate you have an infection in your body. Another lymphatic organ that is part of the immune system is the spleen. The spleen filters out foreign organisms in the blood. It removes old or damaged red blood cells and stores extra blood which it releases into the body as it is needed. Lymph travels slowly through the system by the contraction and expansion of adjacent muscles and arteries. One-way valves in the lymphatic vessels keep the lymph from flowing backwards. The spleen isn't the only organ that filters blood. The kidneys do too. The kidneys are part of the next system, the urinary system. Their purpose is to regulate the water and electrolyte content of the body, retain some wanted things, and eliminate unwanted things. As blood passes through the capillaries in the kidneys, various wanted and unwanted materials are forced into structures called nephrons. There are about 1 million nephrons in each kidney. From the nephrons, waste products drain down a tube into the urinary bladder, from which they are expelled from the body as urine. Valuable materials, such as glucose and amino acids, are eventually returned to the bloodstream. People whose kidneys fail can be connected to a kidney dialysis machine that removes the waste products from their blood. Ultimately, people with kidney failure will need a kidney transplant. Kidney transplants have a very high success rate. Since only one kidney is needed for the body to function properly, healthy people can donate a kidney to a person who needs one. Let's move on to the circulatory system. The average adult body contains 4 to 6 liters of blood. Oxygen-carrying blood is pumped throughout the entire body by our heart. The heart normally beats about 72 times per minute, but during heavy exercise, it can beat well over 150 times per minute. Remember, it has to beat constantly. It can never stop. Let's see how blood circulates through the body. The heart has 4 chambers. After traveling through the body, blood low in oxygen enters the right chambers of the heart, where it is pumped through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. In the lungs, there are elastic sac-like structures called alveoli. The alveoli are lined with capillaries. When air is inhaled, oxygen surrounds the capillaries and is diffused into the blood. At the same time, waste gases, mainly carbon dioxide, are diffused out of the blood and are exhaled. The newly oxygenated blood returns to the heart where it is pumped out to the rest of the body. The blood is carried away from the heart by arteries. The arteries branch off, becoming smaller and smaller, much like the limbs on a tree, until they become very tiny capillaries. Here, the diffusion process occurs again. Cells absorb oxygen and other nutrients from the blood and give the blood carbon dioxide and other waste products. After this exchange, the blood returns to the heart through a system of veins where the cycle is repeated. The respiratory system is responsible for the process of breathing air in to deliver oxygen to the circulatory system, while at the same time removing carbon dioxide in the process of breathing out. Activities like smoking and working in dusty conditions can irritate the lungs until they form scar tissue. The scar tissue reduces the lung's ability to exchange carbon dioxide for oxygen. Eventually, this damaged tissue can develop into lung cancer. Now let's look at the nervous system. The brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves that are connected to it make up the nervous system. The brain controls not only our voluntary actions, but also involuntary ones, such as the working of the heart and the lungs. The nervous system and the endocrine system regulate and coordinate the activities of all the cells in the body. The brain is divided into 3 major parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The different parts of the brain control different types of activities. The cerebrum controls the processing of information, thinking, and starting voluntary muscle movements. The cerebrum is also where memories are stored. There are differences between the left and right sides of the cerebrum and what they control. In most people, the left side specializes in speaking, writing, and understanding language. The right side is usually involved with art, music, visual relationships, and touch. While the cerebrum tells the body to start a movement, it is the cerebellum that coordinates the body's movements so that it is smooth and balanced. The brainstem deals with the brain's most basic responses. It is closely tied in with the body's involuntary muscles. It also controls our reflexes and regulates things like body temperature. All 3 areas of the brain communicate with each other and other parts of the body through nerves. Nerve cells are called neurons. Nerve impulses start when an internal or external stimulus excites special cells, called receptor cells. For example, light is the stimulus that excites the receptor cells in the eye. Each new impulse goes from neuron to neuron. Neurons don't usually touch one another, but are connected by a special electrochemical switch called a synapse. A synapse is a junction between a neuron and a target cell. When it is triggered, it passes information from its neuron onto the next. Nerve cells that carry impulses toward the brain are called sensory nerve cells. The brain processes the impulse, and if a response is necessary, the brain sends it out through the motor nerve cells. Impulses sent out by the brain end up activating effector cells, such as muscle cells or secretor cells of various organs and glands. The endocrine system also controls body activity. It does this by producing substances called hormones. Hormones speed up or slow down certain chemicals. Let's go on to the digestive system. The digestive system breaks down food and then absorbs those nutrients into the bloodstream. The body uses the nutrients to produce energy. The gastrointestinal tract is one continuous tube that runs from the mouth to the anus. It is the basis of our digestive system. The salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas all secrete enzymes into the gastrointestinal tract at various stages in the digestion process. These enzymes control certain biochemical reactions, such as to help speed up the breaking down of food. The gastrointestinal tract is broken down into a number of parts: the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, and the rectum. After we put food into our mouth, it begins to be broken down by chewing and by enzymes in our saliva. The food is then moved through the esophagus by the involuntary contraction of smooth muscles to the stomach. Once it enters the stomach, enzymes in hydrochloric acid are released. The hydrochloric acid helps the digestion of protein and also kills many of the bacteria in the food. The walls of the stomach are protected from the hydrochloric acid by a coating of mucus. By moving with a churning action, the stomach gradually forces the partially digested food into the small intestine. The small intestine is where most of the digestion of food is done. The inside of the small intestine is lined with finger-like projections called villi. The villi greatly increase the amount of surface area available to absorb nutrients from the food. Bile, produced by the liver and pancreatic juice from the pancreas, also help with food digestion. It is here that most of the carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, water, and electrolytes from the food are absorbed into the bloodstream. What is left moves on to the large intestine. The walls of the large intestine are much smoother than those of the small intestine. Sodium and chloride are absorbed in the large intestine. There are bacteria that produce vitamins, such as vitamin K. The remaining undigested material, which consists mostly of water, undigested cellulose, salts, and bacteria, are moved to the rectum for elimination. As we've seen, it takes all of our body systems working together to allow us to live a full and happy life. Take care of your body, and it will take care of you. Understanding how all 10 of the complex systems work together to maintain balance within our bodies is important for us to know so we can live a lifestyle that will maximize our body's potential.